welcome back to another segment of Alisa On The Mic podcast with friends. I have some lovely friends of mine joining me today for a really intense conversation. I have Mr. Erik, Dillard, Winston from Atlanta, Georgia, by way of Columbus, Ohio with us. We have Marc Henry-Lazarre out of Lakeland, Florida, and we have Qamil Wright, who's a recording artist out of Columbus, Ohio. Hello, everybody, and how are you guys doing?
We're great. We're great. How are you?
I am good. So let me just say this. When I decided that I wanted to have this podcast, it was kind of nerve-wracking on who I was going to reach out to do it. I didn't want it to be really, really big because I didn't want us to be like, you know, all out of control with it, because so many people have so many different comments about the state of our nation as it pertains to us as African-American people. And a lot of times, and a lot of the focus here lately has been on police brutality and racism and the race war that I personally feel like we're in. I mean, I guess it just depends on who we're talking to, where they feel we are in regards to an all-out race war. But I think it's high time that we also talk to the Black community as well, because yes, police brutality is an issue, but we got an issue too. And I don't know, and I guess I wanted to ask you guys in terms of us, yes, we know that, you know, police brutality is an issue and racism is an issue, but why can't we see that Black on Black crime is an issue as well? Like, why is it so hard for us to look at that and say, okay, the same energy that we have rioting and protesting about white police officers killing us, why don't we have that same energy when we just had kids murdered over the 4th of July weekend, not only in Atlanta, but also in Chicago, and nobody's out rioting and protesting, and nobody's out, you know, saying anything about that? And don't get me wrong before you guys answer, I'm not saying that police brutality is not an issue. But today I want to focus on us. Why can't we see, or why can't we keep that same energy when Black on Black crime is a major, major issue?
Does it matter who goes first?
It doesn't matter who goes first. Just jump right
on. And I know that this is one of those topics where it's easy to go off onto a big tangent, but I'll just bite-size it and give everybody a chance so we can kind of do a good round robin. I'll start with the side of why not, as far as how I feel it. We as a Black community, we've been through so much that we didn't have control over, and I think that produces an amount of shame. And so when it comes down to sharing our problems or talking about them in the open, yeah, on the macro, we're having a big problem about not being able to even say the term Black on Black crime, and we can get into what that means. But I think if we just start real small, our homes are like that. You know, you don't be telling people all your business. You that stays in the house. And not knowing that mentality also comes from slavery, and there are many things that have been rooted in slavery that they're still here. They're far, 400 or 500 years removed from that horrible time, but they're still here. And so I think the onset of it is we don't want to talk about our problems in public.
Okay. Does anybody else want to touch on it before I jump on that?
I have lots to say, but Marc, you want to go before I
Yeah, I want to give everybody the chance. I know we could go on. So
we're gonna go there. Oh, we're gonna go there. All right.
Here we go.
Yeah, I think that, you know, Black on Black crime is a legit issue, but I think it's just as much an issue as there's white on white crime. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it is the narrative. That's how it's coming from. Because you got to remember, like, you always want to question, for one, you know, where the statistics are coming from. Because at one point there was scientists, you know, guys who won Nobel Prizes who were saying that Black people were intellectually inferior. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of, gynecology comes from, you know, the abusing of white women and, you know, white women's body parts. But when they're saying that they're basically exaggerating this huge problem, it's no different. Like when we see massive school shootings, do we say, hey, we got a problem with white violence, when a lot of times we see that the school shooter happens to be a disgruntled white male? We don't say all of a sudden that white folks, they just as a whole need to go under psychological trauma. You know, it's that he was troubled, he had mental issues, you know, he's humanized. You know, we've seen the picture of them giving the white guy a cup of water after he did a school shooting. You know what I mean? Like, are you okay? But if it was somebody of a black and brown complexion, 9 times out of 10, we know it's not going to be the same thing. So it's not that it's not an issue. I think you also have to look at how the media portrays it, because you got to remember that there has to be, when it comes to black folks, if you're going to show one problem, you need to balance it out. But if you always show the bad of, hey, black folks are killing people, black folks are killing each other, but you don't always show the achievements, you don't show what we contribute to this country, then of course, white folks, the first thing they want to do to deflect from the issue is say, oh, but what about black on black crime? Now, when it comes to crime in itself, as far as, you know, when you see the crimes, there's something called a crime of proximity. So what that means is that you commit crimes against people who look like you based on proximity. I go into that because we have to talk about things such as redlining and different things that are sent, you know, so that basically Atlanta's a prime example of that. Atlanta's highway was created to keep blacks in their neighborhoods and white folks in theirs. They didn't want, that's why Atlanta's traffic is the way it is, not just because the traffic is bad, it's because the highway was, you can look this up, the highway was actually created in a way that kept us in our neighborhoods and segregated us from theirs. So that goes into the poverty aspect, where most of us know that poverty conditions help to, you know, exaggerate crime. And as you know, with black folks, the wealth in the black family is statistically 10 times less than a white family. And then when it comes to, then you also have to question the initial point of contact for crimes as well, that, you know, a black male is 2.5 times more likely to get stopped by a police officer than a white male. Black on black crime is a problem, but it's no more of a problem than it is with white on white crime. What I have a problem with is the lens of,
right. And that's what I was going to say. If you have people, if black people are portrayed a certain type of way, right?
Right.
Why do we keep feeding into the narrative?
Well,
because if we want other people to take us serious, and we want other people to champion our causes, if we know that they're going to perpetuate us as monsters and, oh, look at them, they're over there killing each other, so what's the difference? You know, that's why we killed them, because look how violent they are. Why do we keep feeding that same narrative? Go ahead, Qamil. Marc, I'm gonna come back to you.
For starters, I think that we care too much about what they think about us. We have cared about what they have thought about us since we got here, and we care in the way that we wear our hair when we go to work, and the way that we dress our children, and how we teach them to speak to people, and they still kill us, and they still think the same things, no matter how amazing we are, how many incredible examples we have. Oprah's, and we have Issa Rae's, and we have people in the hood that kill people. We have the spectrum, just like they do. There's a conversation about classism that I think doesn't happen enough, but I want to go back to the term black on black crime in the first place. Black on black crime, that term was not created by us. That term is not ours. It bothers me a lot when we repeat it, because that's what they want us to do. As someone who is very involved in the community, who has organized marches, protests, when I lost somebody that was killed by gun violence, it personally bothers me to have arguments with people telling me that I don't care about gun violence. We as Black people have to mourn all of it. We go to the funerals of our people who are gunned down by police. We go to the funerals of ex-boyfriends and husbands and brothers who are also gunned down in our communities. Like, our capacity to care about things is not limited. We have trauma coming from so many different directions. It is exhausting. Like, it is absolutely exhausting. So we're having this conversation amongst ourselves about black on black crime and defending it to white people. I can't even tell you how many times I have gone in on some white lady in a chat about how they cannot possibly understand the level of trauma. And I've actually had them be like, I never thought about it that way. I didn't know that you guys had organizations who fight, you know, who protest or are out in these communities trying to mentor these kids or do these things to curb the violence. They don't know because that's not on the news. So it's not so much as us working so hard to change the way that they look at us, as much as it is we need to have more of our own media that is showing the good things that we are doing. Yeah. These organizations, there's many organizations that are against street violence. How many news stories do we see on them?
None. Yeah.
Other things, it's just shifting the focus and the light on what is there. Maybe
absolutely.
That's what I think needs to happen. I go on and on.
If we can't have that, if we don't get that, because I agree, and I've literally had to remove myself from social media in the heighten of all this stuff, because you do get a lot of people that, you know, you can coexist with on a normal day-to-day basis, but when it hits like this and race becomes the forefront of everything, you start to hear how people really feel and what they think, and it becomes either is it ignorant or willful ignorance. Do you know what I mean? And so a lot of it is willful ignorance, correct? But if we're not leading the charge, we don't own media companies. I mean, we have TV One and different things. You know, we have that are supposed to be for our causes and things like that. But I could only imagine the type of drama that they have to deal with in order to put our stuff out there. You get what I'm saying? But
we are the media. We have social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram every day, sharing stories, sharing the negative, sharing this conversation about Black on Black crime. Are we sharing, you know, Mothers Against Gun Violence posts? They have rallied as much as we're sharing what CNN or Fox News is talking about. Absolutely not. There's how many millions of Black people? We are our own media. We don't really need TV One or Radio One or wherever to do it for us. We have access every day to the whole world.
If I can add like to that as well too, I think that's where a lot of it comes from. It's not like Qamil just said. It's not trying to make it to worry about how we act in front of white people. And I you know, I think a lot of us are rapidly coming out of that day because we understand how problematic that can be. Yeah. But I think that it is more so what we're kind of aiming at right now. How do we look to each other? So whenever I've engaged in conversation about this and talking about it, I understand the initial sensitivity and offense to it, where it's like, you know, where you're victim blaming. And I had to really kind of listen to what people were saying and finally come up with the vocabulary for myself of what I was trying to express. My thing is, it's not victim blaming, it's we need love. Right now, Black people need more love than any other community right now in America. I mean, that's just how I feel. We need love. And so when we're looking at situations like what happened this weekend and whatnot with, you know, all the children that were murdered because, you know, the absence of police and again, systemic things, be it by omission or commission that are happening, we have to take a bigger account to understand that it's like genocide on autopilot and that everything is being put in place to just take us out. So the way I look at it is, if we could be Black people, well, because the conversation, we're Black people saying this, we can't fight the other side if we're taking out our team. That's how I've always looked at it. It's not blaming for the sake of blaming, but if we're in this thing together, no matter where we are on the economic ladder, and we're trying to take out the other side, when we take out our future, which is what happened with those children, all 4 of them were taken out. That could have been a doctor, a lawyer, the next president that we just took out, you know, because of gang violence and whatnot. Then the other qualm that I have, you know, with people that say, well, crime happens everywhere, is that we have not ever had an experience that was like anybody else's. So again, with crimes of proximity, that's a very powerful layer to look at. But what I also offer to people too is, even with that, that's assuming that all of those proximities are the same, and they're not. So, you know, something happening in a white neighborhood or a Hispanic neighborhood or what have you is economically and societally different than what we have in Black America. To the point of, you know, representation. I say this too. I've been telling people, and some people don't like this term either, I keep calling it, because it's the way I feel it, trauma porn. And my thing is seeing, you know what I'm saying, seeing over and over and over, watching George Floyd constantly be murdered. There's something that happens in your psyche when you keep reverberating that same image over and over and over and over again. And there are too many Black people that I see right now that would otherwise be optimistic, that would otherwise be productive, otherwise, you know, suggesting of things we can do to be better. But you almost wind up in this place of defeat where you think that white supremacy cannot be overtaken. And I'm not one that believes like that. My thing is, let's push those positive stories. We're in the day now of autonomous, what you're doing now. We're on a show that you've created. So it's possible to do it. The problem that I see is that we don't understand the value of investing in ourselves. And I think that because of problems in our past, from Rosewood to the Arkansas lynchings, and all the times we tried to come up and things were taken down, we've reached a collective state of hopelessness now to where the system has said, this is the image we want you to see. We want you to hashtag. We want you to talk about the death. No matter what the statistics say, let's keep you emotional and angry, instead of us saying, you know what, we can turn this thing around by pushing positivity. But we have to, it has to mean something to us more than Nene Leakes throwing a drink on somebody and cussing them out. It has to mean more. Right now, our positivity doesn't mean enough to us for us to push that narrative.
And we don't support each other enough.
We don't. We
able to push it, because there's no validity and no credibility to what we do if there's not enough of us supporting us. You know what I mean? We would rather watch CNN, we would rather watch MSNBC, we would rather watch Fox News or the local news, when we know for a fact, even with the whole COVID situation,
it's going to piss you off.
It's going to make you mad, for one. For one, it's going to piss you off. For two, where are the numbers coming from? Who are the they? I get so tired of hearing they. Who's they? I need they to stand up, because I don't, who is they? But we would rather watch that when you had nurses and doctors on social media saying, oh no, you know, they're misdiagnosing people with COVID. Anything you coming here with is going to be diagnosed as COVID. So it's like, okay, so you're looking at numbers, but are they really numbers? Are they inflated? Are they not? They were like, oh my gosh, the hospitals are overflowing. Then you have people on social media outside the hospital and there's not a line, there's not a person in sight.
We still don't know.
So you don't know. You know what I mean? We don't know, you know? Yeah. But what I'm saying is, how do we then take a hold of the narrative if we don't trust each other? That's the problem. We don't trust each other enough to support. We can't even go as far as liking or subscribing to a YouTube channel, and that's free.
No.
That's free.
That's free.
Don't get me started.
All you got to do is click.
You gotta click a button.
Click a button. Ain't nobody trying to bother you. That's it.
We're not asking you to buy nothing. So God forbid, you know what I mean? You have to purchase something, or God. So how do we then take our own narratives and our own communities? How do we project positivity when everything that we need to do that is either stripped from us, or they make it seem that we're not credible enough to give it, so people won't support us, so then our voices are suppressed.
We cannot support or push positivity without first allowing for vulnerability. And I think that that's something that, again, from the inception of slavery, just even talking about how plantations were run, and the Willie Lynch letters, and that, you know, the slaves that were outside the house versus the ones that were inside the house. And I've seen things happen like that even today, where
that's still
they're fighting one another. And so it's kind of like, when you still, that's the mindset, that thing moves, that thing, it just takes on a different form. When you talk about corporal punishment, you know, I wish my child would, I beat her ass. Like, that comes from somewhere. That comes from people who actually have books of psychology and mental health that kept all that from us, and we're beating each other to keep massa from hearing us. And so now we've gotten to that same place now to where no one's resolving it. So where it was for safety, now it's just out of anger, and it's just, and no one is. I don't want to say no one, but there are not enough of us that are stopping that merry-go-round and saying, listen, this is not helping. And let's come together. Let's have platforms like this. Let's share them. Let's let somebody watch your program. You're filming us do this, and get behind you and say, this message is good. What can I do to help you push this message out? We've got to get to a place where we can trust each other, but that's only going to come by just admitting that all of us have made mistakes. We're all flawed, and we're all trying to get it. There's too many of us that's trying to be right in conversations. And we think that we are the authoritative of, I know about Black issues and you don't know nothing. That ain't getting us nowhere. So it's like, everybody has to come to the table with their piece of the pie, and then let's see what we can create. And I think that we just need more opportunity for that.
I think it's even deeper than that, though, Erik, because if you figure, when you think about it, I can't help push you towards greatness because I'm afraid that when you get there, you're going to leave me, and then all my sweat equity, because that's what was done to us.
Yes.
We stood behind and we built the crops.
Yep.
We built businesses. We created 90% of what we use in this country. We did that. And then when they got stable, we got nothing.
Yes.
So psychologically, I think it's difficult for us to support the next person because there's a fear of, if I help Qamil make it in this music industry, she's going to blow up. She's going to fire me, and I'm not going to get a dime, but I worked for her for free to get her there. There's no trust.
There's not.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how do we build that? Like, how do you build it? Because I even in trying to teach people, even with what I do with filmmaking, you have to teach people and coach them and, you know, explain to them the different nuances of what's going on with the building process and coming from the ground up. But people are afraid.
They're afraid. They're afraid. They like you said, they think that something's going to be taken. And I'm going to go back to what you said too when you're talking about the past. Not just the building it and you get nothing, but the broken promises of, well, if you do this, you know, slave owners, well, if you do this, then you'll get your freedom. And then you do that, and or somebody else, a new boss comes in, well, those papers don't mean nothing to me. You're still my slave. And it's just that type of fear, that thing is birthed, and it again, it just keeps on taking a different form, whether you have kids or not. The fact that there's generations that are coming after us, we're passing that fear down. We're telling people, don't you trust them? Well, watch who is that? Well, watch how they are, because you know, if you don't know people like I know people, and that same like hoarding mentality of, I don't want to open up, because if I open up my hand, you'll take what's in it. Somebody has to be brave enough to, number one, say, I'm not going to live my life like that, and at the same time, understand that you control who's coming into your life, having the discernment to know, can I trust this person? Because everybody's not for you. And I think that's one thing we probably need to talk about too. It hurts, but a truth that I'm saying, all Black people ain't gonna make it out of this. And I'm not trying to be negative when I say that. We are not all going to come out of this as one unified force seeing the same thing. It's just not going to happen. There are going to be certain people that they want to stay in their despair.
Some of them like where they are and are comfortable.
Yeah, they're comfortable there
with their job, with their everything. That they're like doing the same thing, and it's good. And they got their 401k, and they got the house, and they cool. Like, they're not going to be out there at protest.
They ain't trying to be on the
front. They're not going to be on Facebook ranting and raving about any of this, because they are fine with it as it is. I think one thing I saw earlier, someone was like, well, what was the results? And this was a Black person. I mean, what was the point of doing a Blackout Tuesday? Like, what was the results of that? And I read the comments. I didn't comment because I had a whole thing. I was like, I don't even feel like talking everything that I have to say. But I think that kind of mentality is like, if you don't see 1 billion people doing it, then it didn't count, is the problem. Because community is each individual person. If I cook a meal and I go out and just hand it to one person who needs something, that does something. You don't need a whole movement. You can be a movement within yourself. What you're doing right now by having us on here, having this conversation, I'm going to go share with my followers. Everybody's going to go share it with theirs. Somebody's going to watch it. That is just, it may feel like one little thing, but it might spark somebody to do a Zoom themselves and have another conversation. We have these platforms that we are creating. You have Save Them City. You hire people. Like, you put these people in these positions to be great, and then that inspires them to go maybe help somebody else to be great or to be a director. And I have a million things that I do to help in the community, whether it's through the arts or just in community service. So it's not, I think people are looking for Martin Luther King and for somebody to tell them what to do. But we are not in the same civil rights movement as, you know, our grandparents, where they didn't have the resources that we have to be a movement individually in the same way. Every single day, the second we flip that phone on, there is opportunity to change the world. And I think that's what I'm teaching my kids.
But we do need a leader, though. And I'm going to tell you why I feel like we need a leader. I think what we saw across the nation with like the looting and the rioting and all this kind of stuff. Prime example, when Trayvon Martin was killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had a leader in this country who was able to subdue and react. He was in the forefront. It was somebody that we looked up to and respected, right? We respected Barack Obama. When he was in office, whatever he said, whether we agreed totally with it or not, he had respect. So with Black people, we were pissed, we were upset, we were ready to go. We wanted Zimmerman's head on a platter, still do. Let's be clear. We still want his head on a platter. Let's be clear.
He's still walking around, but go ahead.
Listen.
Ow!
Exactly. But we wanted his head on a platter, right? Yeah. But Barack was at the funerals. He was respectful. He was on the news. He said, this could have been my son. He humanized himself with the people that kept everybody in a space where we were like, okay, he's going to do something. And there were some things that he did. He could have done more, but he was able to subdue it. We are a country without a leader.
Yeah. And we need to be subdued.
You got all this stuff going on, which I'm not saying I think it all plays a part. I think the rioting and the looting and all that stuff has its place. But what I'm saying is, when you have a leader that people respect, that people will follow, you cannot have the rioting and the looting, and then what?
What just being subdued now? Like, it seems either way.
Right.
MLK was nonviolent, right? MLK was nonviolent, and they shot him in the face.
And they killed, and Malcolm X was before the violence, and they killed him too. So it's really a catch-22. But what I'm saying is, we have to have somebody who's going to be able to help see this thing all the way to the finish line. Al Sharpton's doing he's too old though, but he's doing a great job of trying to champion. We really do need a bunch of us.
Yeah. We need more than one leader.
We need more than one, but we need a group of us who people respect, because what's going to happen is that we're going to end up in a space where, just like where the militia, they showed up at Stone Mountain with the guns. All the Black people showed up at Stone Mountain ready for the KKK with guns. So see, either we're going to have a leader who can help lead us all the way, or we're going to end up in a revolution, and it will be televised this time. You see what I'm saying? Because people are
not mad at that.
I'm not mad at it either, to an extent, but it has to mean something. It got to mean something.
That's what I was trying to tell people, is always think about my whole thing in this, and this was part of the, I think it's good to share. I've had to not roll back, but just kind of add layers to what I was saying too, because I was one of the ones that was like, what y'all rioting for? You know, this is, don't be tearing up your communities. And I still believe that in my heart, not from the sake of how they look at us, but that I don't think a lot of people understand insurance and gentrification, and that when we started recognizing that they were giving us the tools to destroy what we had, that again, all of our outbursts are built into white supremacy. We're never throwing them off guard. They have all that stuff built in. They know what's going to happen. While we're outraged and uproaring and going off, they're calmly sitting behind the table with the pen trying to just, we'll change this line in that law because they did this, and then we'll make it so that they're calmly manipulating us. And we need somebody that, yes, we can be vigilant, yes, we can be loud, yes, we can be boisterous, but it still has someone on our side. It still has to have, like you said with Obama, it could be somebody else now, or somebody's else now, has to have that level of calm about themselves to say, okay, I get what you're doing, so this is going to be the next step after that happens. Or, you know, and I'm not trying to suggest anything, if we are going to tear stuff up, this is what you tear up and why. And let's do it with a purpose, as opposed to just getting mad, because what's happening right now is people are in their communities breaking everything apart that you need. So now you don't have the medicine, you don't have the food, you don't have any resource now. And those companies, the Targets, I don't care about that Target, and Target don't care about you, because they're going to smash that store, rebuild it, and then they'll change the insurance policies and the zoning to where, again, the redlining will happen, and they'll push you out again. So eventually we're going to push ourselves to where? That's, I mean, my thing is, like, if we're going to do it, have a purpose. We're aimlessly angry.
Even back in Martin Luther King's era, they were arrested.
Yeah.
Dogs were, but they were also linked up. It was like, okay, if you get arrested, here's who you call to get you out.
Exactly.
Well, we have that here in Columbus. There's a whole fund for that.
It was organized. It was organized.
Is that something that is in Columbus? Absolutely, there is a whole. See, some things are not talked about. Yeah. So here, if you do, then there's a phone call that can be made, and money that is in place for that. But that is a good example of what Alisa was saying. Like that needs to be something that is everywhere.
Yeah.
There are people, leaders because there has to be different layers of leadership. Yes, you need the people who are on the forefront, and then there's the people that you never will see at all. But they're ever. You never know their names, but
like
they're
you
there.
said, there are some people who will never be on the front line. So maybe those people need to be the ones on the phone, being the liaison between the one that's on the front line and the one that can get you out of jail when you get jacked up, or him.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because
I also believe they exist some places. They do.
Yeah, you have to, because even what Erik said about the trauma porn, right?
Right.
I found myself literally and legitly on the inside bubbling over. Like I couldn't take anymore. I was ready, literally, and I'm the most, Steph. Like, sorry guys, we went to high school together. And I'm about to call her something. But no, you know me. Like it takes a lot to push me to that point, but when I get there, there's no stopping it. And I was being pushed to that point. You know what I mean? I was being pushed to that point because I'm like, after one killing, you mean to tell me a police officer did it again? And now we got to watch that for a whole week? Yeah. And then another police officer did it again? Like, they're not stopping. So I was like, well, I need some guns. Like, because, you know what I mean? Like, I need to arm myself so I can, because that's the mental anguish that it sends you on when you're watching people that look like you dropping with, they're not armed. And then you got us circulating.
We got us.
Yeah, but then we're circulating things like the guy who got the drink of water after he shot up that place, the police officer giving him the water. So you got Black people circulating that stuff that's making us angry, and then you have the media showing Black people being killed. So you're angry, like it's
and us arguing on Facebook and Instagram, arguing with each other about, does this work, and why are we boycotting McDonald's? And why are we doing? And it's like, what? Like, everybody shut up.
And not even
that. Then you got white people who hiding behind the keyboard. And they texting stuff like, you monkey, go back here. When I saw this lady call another guy a monkey and call her delusional, talking about that America is great, and if we don't want to be here, go back to where. But wait a minute, because this ain't your land either.
And like we were saying with the riots, the people that were laying the bricks out, or the people, the infiltrators that were coming into Black Lives Matter, and they were, white people basically dressed in black from you can't tell. The same people that are paid, basically bots, if you will, to go in there. They don't even have any emotional relevance in that argument. They're just doing it.
They don't care.
Go in there and call these people monkeys. Go in there and do that. And we're constantly reacting to it. And I want to make sure that, at least for myself, that I'm always respecting our feelings. When I'm trying to pull people out of this mode of thought, it's not trying to disregard the pain that we've been through. I totally get it. But if somebody is always able to gaslight you, and that's a term that we need to talk about more.
It is one of my favorite terms.
Yes. How much of this is legitimate information, and how much of this, not to blame him solely, but to blame him, if nothing else, from an accomplice standpoint, Mark Zuckerberg, that he's just run this, he's created this monster that just runs on this. He's just now speaking against stuff.
Yeah.
He's the only reason that he is saying stuff now is why? Because the advertisers are pulling out. It's not because we feel anything and we were saying we're tired of seeing it. Now when his biggest investors are saying, well, we don't want any part, and understanding also that they're not pulling out by any means of integrity either. It's just a bad look.
Right.
So everyone's doing things that look like angel moves or angelic moves, but they're doing them because it's a bad look. At some point, we as a Black community, no matter where we are economically and socially, we have got to stand there and say, they are trying to get us, not from a place of paranoia, but from a place of clarity, and say, because they're trying to get us, we've got to turn things around now. Again, enough of us have to say that. And just, even if it's a few of us, we've got to start pushing a better message. What I'm doing now, to be actual about it, every time I see something bad, number one, I'm trying never to post that or share it. I'm trying to find a good story to replace it. So I'll try to find some kid that, you know, they got a scholarship and they're going here, or somebody opened up a business over here, or like when I'm doing, you know, Imani, I'm reaching out to people in the community. Hey, do you have a business? Do you have a graphic or something? And I'm not charging people in the beginning because I'm building. I'll put you on there as a commercial. I want to push our greatness, but we have to actively, consciously do it because the system is just making us go crazy on autopilot.
It's a daily decision
Yes.
to change the narrative for yourself.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then with your kids, with your friends. Like I had my mom look up the owner of Ashley Stewart's yesterday. She would have never did that. And she's like, I'm gonna go to Ashley Stewart's. And I was like, well, is it Black owned? And she was like, I don't know. And she Googled it and she was like, oh, it says somebody named Reed. I said, that's the Asian man. She said, oh, well, I guess I'm not going to Ashley Stewart's today. That's a little thing, but it's also a big thing because my parents' generation, they're like, man, we've been through this for so many years. I'm going where I want to go. Right. The fact that she cared and that she is like with it, it's like a big deal. Yeah. We
should be like you just said, like with that, I think pushing, not to sound redundant, but pushing that and making people aware of what that means to have a Black-owned business and what it means to support that business. Because one thing I will say, and this is again, and we can debate or talk about how this is, you don't see a Hispanic Blackout Day. You don't see a Chinese Blackout Day. I'm not sure we do, but you don't see none of that. And a lot of that is, if it's white supremacy and then people of color, why is it that the other communities of color seem to have a structure to where they don't have to do all this? There's something intentionally being done to always keep Black people distracted.
Oh, absolutely.
There's always something, you know what I'm saying?
But that goes back to we're the only, I'm not saying slavery and oppression and the concentration camps and all those different things didn't happen to other races.
Right.
But in America, we are the only race who was oppressed like that.
Yeah.
The Native Americans got something for their trouble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Germans, if you will. Everybody got something. I mean, the Jews, everybody got something for their trouble.
Yeah.
We're the only ones that did not.
And Germany does not play this S-word stuff that, I don't know if we can cuss, that we do here. Like, you can't just have a Nazi flag in Germany.
That's what I'm saying. You're not just ready. That's what I'm saying. We're the only country, but it goes back to it. And I hate to say this, and I hope for those who are watching, hear my heart on this, but there's a difference and a caliber of people, of Black people in the North and in the South. Now, I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and born and raised. Marc is the only one I think from the South, but the other two, you know, he's from Lakeland, Florida, by way of Haiti.
Oh, Florida? Okay.
But he's from the South.
Right.
We are from Ohio.
Yeah.
Me and Erik have moved south, so I'm going to be looking to you, Erik, to vouch what I'm saying, okay? Because I'm not trying to be offensive.
I'm still here.
I know, but I'm not trying to be offensive when I say this.
Yeah.
But when I moved here, it was in 2000. I moved to Georgia in 2008. So Obama was being elected. Okay. They were so pissed off. They were hanging, and when I say hanging, dolls from the daggone BP station with Obama's face on it and stuff like that. I called my grandmother in tears, like, "Where am I at?
Where am
because
I?" Right.
I'm not saying racism didn't exist in Ohio. It was just on some other stuff. We didn't.
Definitely exist here.
And Black people up in the North, they got unions. They'll go on strike. They'll walk out. People up, if you don't pay them their due or what they think they're worth, they're walking out. Yeah. You ain't have to tell. My mom raised me. My grandparents raised me. My grandfather picked cotton in Alabama. He said, "You're just as qualified and just as a human, as a person, as this white person is." I wasn't told to hold my head down. Yeah. You come down here, and it's like, "Oh, they only paying me X amount of dollars." I'm like, "Well, then, and you ain't got no raise? Oh, then you should go talk to somebody." "Oh, no. I'm not gonna say nothing because I need my job. I got to feed my kids." Yeah. Okay, but what does that have to do with your worth And the fact that you're now training somebody at their grade, bring in to put over you to make more money than you. How does that work? So they throw us crumbs, we accept it, and so we get comfortable because they make us believe that that's all that we're worth. So when you're dealing with two different sets of Black people, you got the ones that are ready to, that know our worth, and then you have others who you're trying to convince that they're worth more and to champion with you so we can get more. They're like, oh no. So, you understand what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying?
You know I understand what you're saying.
Absolutely.
I moved down here 1 year after you did. I know exactly what you're talking about. And because I've been speaking to this on my page this week. You know, COVID is making all of us, at least for me, really giving me time to think about everything that I feel.
Too much time to think. Good Lord.
Yeah, if we're being real. But I would say that, and again, like I said, I'm going to high five you. And I also do not mean any disrespect when I say this, but there is a subservient, lower way of living and thinking. And I'm not saying that every person in the South has it, but I'm saying that for all of my experiences that I've had, I'm 1 years old. 1 month of change, whatever.
Are you sure?
Now I'm starting to lie. So I'm 38 forever. But when I was in Ohio, there was a sense of work. There was a sense of we got stuff done. There was a sense of camaraderie. And I'm not saying that it was perfect. I had my problems there too, but there were more artists that I worked with there. I was producing and doing music with people and constantly collaborating, and people got their stuff done. When I moved here in Atlanta, I'm going to just be real. There were more liars. There were more people that were putting on. There were more people that would gas everything up to make it seem like they were about something and then they weren't. There was more jealousy. There was more backstabbing. I had more projects fall apart when I was working with people here. And so there is, as you were just saying, there is a vast difference, by and large, if I can say, by people that live in the North, Black people that live in the North and Black people that live in the South. We have to reconcile that, because even that, in terms of freedom and equality, looks different based on where you are. The racism, as you were just saying, in the North, I felt to be more covert. It was more, so-and-so, they took the job because of something that the language.
Not anymore.
It was very covert, whereas here, I literally had productions where they told me, well, we loved you, but the only reason we didn't cast you is because you was Black. Like, I literally had.
Oh yeah, it goes back.
Here. And I was like, what is this? Or, when I came down here and wanted to do my vocal training business and say what I wanted to charge, oh, you may want to bring that down a little bit. I'm like, really? So it was everything about my Southern experience was very hanging your head. And I don't think like that. So I would always get into it with people online. You see what happens now. Every time I put a thought out there, people go off on me, and I'm like, but I don't come from an area where I down myself and belittle myself.
That's because we're the grandchildren of those who had the guts to run for freedom.
Yeah.
And then they're the grandchildren of the ones who were afraid to do so.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to get, and that doesn't make me better than, because Atlanta is a definite have and have nots amongst the Black people here. Either you have or you don't. When I first moved here, you can have people showing up at the club and showing up to places in a Rolls Royce, and they got the nicest clothes, and they going back to an apartment with 5 other people in one bed.
Yes.
And you like, oh, I thought we was going to go to a gated community. The way you rolled up, we going where? Oh no. But it's because, like he said, but that goes back to even with the COVID thing, when they opened up the stores again. Did you see all the lines of people that were standing in line to get the new Jordans?
Maddening.
It's like,
I couldn't believe it.
We are like in a recession, on our way to a depression.
Where they even going in these Jordans?
Where you going? Go back home. You can't go nowhere.
So we have to change something, and I don't know what that is. I don't know anymore what to do. Like, I'm all talked out. Like, when you talk to people, it's like you're almost starting at an elementary level because you're trying to explain to them why they should even feel like they're worth anything.
Yeah.
Do you realize that kids can't read?
Yeah.
These kids can't read.
Yeah.
They're in the 9th grade and they can't read. So do you realize what's going to happen now that we're in COVID? And so they're getting ready to do this whole homeschool or virtual distance learning thing, right? Mm-hmm. We already can't read. Right. So now you're ready to make parents who still got to go to work, homeschool their children, still make them have to pass these state tests.
On top of racism.
Top of racism and parenting.
Wild.
It's like, can you not see it? You know what I'm saying?
And we need to see stuff like that, and that's where it goes back to leadership, like you said. Not the again, gaslighting leadership that they talk about. Where's the leadership when Fox News talks about it, but the leadership that we really know to be true? How do we not just say the word, but create the structure for it? So if we know that we're going to have that, my suggestion to our community would be like, okay, who are the adults, or the teachers, sorry, that can help this? You know, that's what they're going to do. We're going to fund these teachers, almost like creating your own school system. We'll pay these teachers to help our kids. They will be like the tutor for these. We have to figure out how to do that, as opposed to just letting mainstream media cause the problem and then blame us for it. We're the only ones, and everything you're talking about today, when we're talking about black on black, I don't mean blame. Every way we've got to reach across and help one another.
Because we know what the problems are.
We know what they are. Can't nobody tell us what our problems are.
We know our problems are.
Yeah, I agree.
You got to help about it. I'm talking about the way my house was. My mama, when we left out the house, okay, now y'all take care of each other. That's what I come from. So that's why when I got down here and people didn't understand what I was talking about, and it was like, well, you're just trying to vilify what's going on. I'm like, no, I come from a household where we were told to care for one another. I'm not saying it was perfect, but the understanding is, Erik, those are your sisters. Y'all take care of each other when y'all are out there.
And if you don't, you're in trouble.
If you don't, you're in trouble. And if you have conflict between each other, it was quelled real quick. You don't talk to each other like that. We don't talk like that in this house. I was brought up to care about other Black people. That's where I come from. That's what's in my heart. I care about other Black people. And then when you try to push that level of care and compassion, for some reason it's misinterpreted as you hate your people. And I'm like, how up are we that's what you think with what I'm saying?
There's not enough therapy in the world.
Yeah.
We all need it.
That hurts.
We all need therapists.
But I think that's part of the problem, Mark, if you wanna chime in on it, but that's part of the problem, you guys. Like, we need so much help.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not the kind of, we know we strong. We know that we can bear a lot. We know that. I mean, we built this country. Let's be real.
We wouldn't still be here if we weren't strong, because we shouldn't be.
Very strong. But what has happened with that strength is that we've suppressed fundamental emotions that are misplaced with every little thing. I'm not saying all white people are bad.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, we need each other to keep it all the way real. Or God would have
agree.
so many different cultures. You know what I mean? But the problem is we need so much help. And people look at us, and I'm going to say women, for instance. I don't think people think Black women can ever be weak. And it's like, oh, you're strong, you can handle it. Like I told my one of my friends the other day, if I'm not throwing up, foaming at the mouth and rolling over on the ground, if I'm like, oh, babe, I don't feel good, he's like, oh, okay, but what's for dinner?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, because you can't be feeling that, you know, and I'm not saying that he's not.
No, that is across the board, though. As a Black woman, no, that's across the board. As a Black woman, you can go to the hospital in pain, and they won't believe that you're in as much pain as you say that you're in. Because we haven't even begun to touch on the healthcare system that is just as bad as the justice system as far as its treatment for African American people. But Black women, it's exhausting. It is so exhausting.
I saw my mother battle with that. Like when, and I'm not, trying to put. I'm just, she'll tell you stuff too. But it was like my whole life, in some way, shape, or form, it was like I always saw her in pain. It was always something. And it always made me wonder, like, why isn't some of this fixed?
He said something.
Why is your body ever 100%? And it was like very far and few in between, where there are days where I could tell and she could tell me, like, I feel great today. It was always like there was something going on. And I'm not, to reveal my own ignorance, I'll say, even I didn't know how much of a problem that was for Black women. and I'm not, you know, trying to say that I didn't care. I just, again, and maybe it's the strength that you know, the perceived strength.
Yeah, black women are strong. Black women
are strong. You don't cry. You don't say,
you have to be strong, though. You got to be strong. And you think about it. I got a headache, right? A normal person may go to the hospital for her migraine, right?
Yeah.
And her husband could probably babysit while she goes to the doctor.
Yeah.
We have to take that headache, take a bunch of pills to mask it. That's probably tearing up something else. Goes back to your mom always having something going on, okay? Because we ain't never 100%. Because soon as we get to feeling a little bit better, we got to go wash the clothes. We got to go take the kids over here. We got to run over here.
Well, there's a huge mental health aspect to that. Like, I was dog sick for 2 years and couldn't figure out in and out of the hospital, but I was still taking care of my kids. And I mean, in there going 10 days without being able to keep food down. And ultimately, I ended up going to therapy and had a black therapist. And she was like, honey, you are stressed. Your body is reacting to stress for the last 2 years.
Wow.
Therapy, I haven't been sick since I started going to therapy. Physically.
Imagine that. Imagine if we went and sat down and talked to somebody. And I'm not talking about like, I'm talking about I'm talking about somebody who
like, I ain't gonna cry. That lady had me in there like snot.
Baby, come on, beloved.
Because she could relate to you and you could relate to her.
Yeah.
There's something about somebody who's a third party that can understand what you're going through.
She was black.
That's what I'm
black female
therapist.
She was like, sit down.
After my aunt passed away. And I had two. My second one was black. My first one was white. But the first one spent so much time trying to understand why I even felt the way I felt, because she was she couldn't understand why I felt. Am I counseling you or are you counseling me? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, but that's the thing, because some of them, they don't understand. So they textbook things aren't always textbook with us.
Not at all.
It's not textbook. You know what I mean? So it's
like
it
goes back to that thing about the proximity and the crime, like we were talking about before, that the communities themselves are different. So to have somebody, what's that?
It's a 2-year-old that just ran in here.
Oh, okay, no, you're fine. I didn't make sure. But
as I was saying about motherhood and trying to be great.
You have somebody from a different community that their whole setup is just different. So then when you're trying to counsel somebody else from a different culture, and they have problems, like you said, problems that fall way outside of the textbook, the scope of the textbook, that they don't understand. They don't even know how to culturally speak to those issues, because most of the help that we get are going to be outside of the actual book. It's going to be more experiential than anything.
Yes.
And that was the same thing for me. I was going through depression and I didn't know why.
We don't know that. When you're 11, you better depress yourself in there and wash them dishes. Like, what do you mean?
You know, that's what we're going to stress.
We don't do that.
Go clean.
Or if you're depressed, what you know about depressed?
Oh, yeah.
I gotta take care of this. Like, well, how did this become about you? I'm telling you that I'm feeling weird.
You know what?
We're laughing, but we're traumatized.
Exactly. And the thing is and that's the beauty and the sadness in it, is that there are cultural things that our therapy has been art. You know, our therapy is sports and music and watching our favorite actors and basically escapism, which it's just a Band-Aid. It numbs
escapism. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So our kids need professionals.
Our therapy has then become their entertainment, and they'll pay top dollar to watch us perform out of trauma.
Ma'am?
They will pay top dollar for it. You know, I mean, no, really.
Right.
It's the truth.
That is our therapy. Art is our therapy. We got the best ball players out here, but why are they out there playing ball like that? Because they know that they don't make this money.
We're going to go back to Africa and we're going to take all of our inventions.
We're going to take everything with us.
We're going to take all of our gifts with us. We're going to take all of our music with us, all of our shows, all of our everything.
And then what?
See what they say.
And then what? Because even across the country, across the world, black art,
defibrillators,
artists,
the stoplights, the peanut butter, we take it all of it.
The traffic light.
Everything.
Peanut butter.
Here. We're taking the air conditioner, we're taking the car, we're taking the brakes, we're taking everything. Yeah. All the electricity.
Right. Peace out.
You know what I mean? It's impossible. But what I'm saying is we created, and you think about half the stuff we created, the mob. Because the person who was the slave was probably tired of getting on their hands and knees. So they put a piece of thing on the end of a pole and mopped.
Yeah.
So again, out of our pain and our trauma, you're paying top dollar for what we invent.
They're still making money off of all
top dollar for the way we shoot that ball, but we running out here playing football and taking these hits and messing up our brain because we know that we're really running for our life. This is the only way we can take care of home. This is because instead of you saying you're smart, they said, oh, he's fast. We will pass him as long as he keep running.
Yeah. But why they keep shooting? Why is these kids shooting? They don't have any counselors in the schools to talk to them about the fact that their daddy ain't there. They don't have somebody to talk about why they're hungry and because their mama can't, get enough food to feed them. Like there's so much stuff going on with these kids psychologically, and they feel trapped. And now they're like they've been out of school and it's hot. And they're out here. It is not hard to understand how violence happens.
But you can understand that because you're a Black mother and you're a Black woman. Just like they can understand somebody shooting up a school.
Yeah,
they can understand. They can sit there and understand. He was being bullied for 4 months.
Right.
He was being bullied for 4 months, guys. 4 months. You can understand that, but you can't understand 4 years of oppression. 400 years of oppression in a people. We talking about kids. What about the stress and trauma that a Black woman deals with carrying that kid? The kid is already coming out the womb with psychological issues that they've carried since they've been in the womb for 9 months because the mother was stressed out because the man got fired from his job.
And the doctor didn't believe her when she said that her feet hurt or her heart didn't feel right or whatever. The stuff that pregnancy. Ooh, as a Black mom in these hospitals with these white nurses who are just like, you're a strong Black woman.
I can't.
What do you mean you're in pain? Oh, you actually are. I'm gonna send you home.
And it goes back to like we're saying like with entertainment. And this is I'll say this with COVID, when some of the Black movies came back on that we've seen, they hit real differently with this race war and COVID going on. I tell you. I saw The Help again and got mad.
I have to be careful what I watch.
I've been furious watching The Help. I was like, The Help was a feel-good movie.
No.
I was furious watching that. Because I was like, that's what they do to us. They always
I skipped the whole African American section on Netflix.
I skipped it too. Yeah.
I'm gonna watch 90 Day Fiance. Nope.
I can't even. I haven't even watched. Then There Was Us. I haven't even watched that because I can't.
I'm never gonna watch that.
It hits too hard.
Wait a minute, what are you gonna watch?
The one with the Central Park 5, the one based on
when they
see us. I haven't even watched that because I can't.
Me neither. Never gonna watch it.
Let me say this about when. Have you seen it, Erik?
I saw part 1.
Okay,
I can't
do it.
And let me tell y'all, I watched the whole thing. As a matter of fact, I watched it twice. And I did cry, and I was very angry, but this was pre all of this. But those actors did a phenomenal job.
Oh, yeah.
I heard they did.
They did a phenomenal job. You really want to go burn some stuff. I mean, you get angry because they were kids. They were kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I get it. Marc,
but that's
have you watched anything?
Say it again.
Have you who said they skip over the whole African American section?
That was me.
Oh, that's
Marc?
Yeah, no, but I was saying I feel Qamil, like certain things that like touch on like the racial dynamics of the country right now. Like I don't, because I already know. Like right now, I'm like I don't watch any.
You don't need a reminder of that.
Yeah, I don't watch any of that right now.
I can't do that. And then the other thing that like, I put a post out there a while back about this too. I was looking at like, all the people that have gotten awards, that have gotten actual, Oscars, and me and you were into the arts and we film and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
And they only reward us when we play the worst or lowest version.
And Halle Berry, Denzel and Halle Berry are classic.
I'm not happy about those 2 awards.
No, because they should have been got them.
I was like, after everything that they did, everything that Denzel played, and all these dynamic leaders and whatnot that he did, and Halle Berry, she's done her thing.
Angela Bassett hasn't won anything. How?
But wait a second though. But the big issue there, but let me say this.
She thinks the white man should win an Oscar.
Yes,
But my thing is, why are we trying to win awards at their shows?
Talk about it. Talk about it.
Like I'll be honest, I don't really care about that. I honestly, I don't think why are you trying to sit at a table that they like who
that
like,
they don't want you at?
Who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, I know Denzel and I know Halle Berry. I know Denzel had chops before Training Day. You know what I'm saying? We know that, and I feel honestly, I feel as long as we know that, that's what matters. Like
the reason is money, because when you win an Oscar, the opportunities
it does,
and that's really what it is.
Yeah. Right, but what type of as far as the money. What type of projects are they going to be funding though? Like I said, we get plenty of slaves movie. Can we get a movie on Black Wall Street? Can we get I understand that there's more money, but what type of project are they going to fund? Because
that's the reason though.
Like I said, if that's the issue, and I think that when we talk about athletes, like LeBron is actually trying to work on that because he's started his own production companies and he's it's going to take the mobilization of the black dollar from the like if you had, just hypothetically, let's just say you had Oprah, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Jay-Z just decide, and they actually are doing that. Like Will Smith and Jay-Z have gotten together and they're producing some projects that actually focus on things about us in a positive manner. Like I feel like the slave narrative and the we got done, like I said, the we got done narrative has been pushed so much, and just like Erik was talking about, just psychologically, as a young, like I'm just gonna give you a prime example. Like I grew up in a 2-parent household. I had parents who went to work every day, but because my reality, when I walked out the door, the dudes who came back to the neighborhood were the rappers and the ball players. I grew up with like me, just myself personally. I grew up with a lot of guys right now who are in the NFL, NBA players. Grew up around that. So it's like, even though I saw my own parents go to work every day and work hardworking jobs, the person who looked like me, my peers, I was like, oh, the way for me to really actually achieve, I wasn't thinking about Ben Carson or those guys. I was thinking about, okay, it's gotta be baller rap, because like that's just because it's like, yeah, because I looked at my parents as more as like they were the exception as opposed to the norm. You know what I mean? Yeah. And as a person, I didn't want to be watching my parents, especially being in the South. I didn't want to be. I'm like, well, if I gotta do that, that means I gotta be the only black person. And like my father has been the only black person in his department. And my dad is in computers. He's a analyst, but he's been the only white guy in his department for 20, 25 years. The way
in the South,
yeah. And for me, I'm like, miss me with that. I don't want to be the black dot on the white page. I don't want that. So, but what I feel like, as far as going back to what we're talking about, as far as the awards, I used to be outraged about the Halle Berry Monster Ball and the Denzel. But my thing is like, the way I feel about it is like, I don't really want to sit at a table that's like, they're not necessarily, the experiences that Denzel and different things, their experiences just aren't going to resonate a lot of times with the other audience the way they resonate with us. I feel like we need to create our own or lend more credence to our own, whether whether it's the BET Awards or different things. We need to help the infrastructure on those things become greater and more grandiose, as opposed to every year. Like I see it, and this is probably going to rub some people the wrong way, but I feel like the people getting upset because there's not more representation. I get it, but I'm kind of at the point where it's like, let's create our own thing so we can control our own.
And there's so many great things. Like if we want to talk about good things, Issa Rae is the reason why I decided to kind of branch into production and to start producing like different kinds of shows and things. It's typically I do events, like live events, concerts, open mics, that kind of thing. But I want to get more into film. But I'm like, that is a perfect example of someone, and Ava and these female Black women, powerful producers who, Issa was just doing a web series being goofy, and now look at her. She got a show and 2 movies out in like 1 year, and that is insane, and it's so inspiring. But if we want to talk about good stories,
that's amazing.
Yeah, she can't be the only
one. And that's the thing, she can't be the only one. And what Marc was saying, it's I finally, those are my past feelings. I'm where Marc is now. Where I'm like, need y'all. We good.
That's the table I want to
find. We can create our own. One thing I remember I saw, I can't remember what movie it was. It was a movie that Robert Downey Jr. was in. It was one of his films. And I was getting ready to watch it. And for some reason, I was like, well, let me go to the IMDb and just see who was all in this. Because there was one actor I was trying to see what his name was. And it cracked me up how I went to the IMDb and I'm not lying, there was like 50 white guys that were in the movie. And I was like, look at all the choices they have given these white men to be in this one film, and literally to the point to where they look the same at certain points. I was like, but they still cast all 50 of them and let them play a rainbow of colors. But then, like you said, but then when it's us, when it's Ocean's 11 or some other movie, then we're the black dot on the white page. And when we have our movies, we can't see a gradient of people. And I think what's happening now with like where we are with conversations, a lot of us think that we're getting into it with one another, and I don't think that it's that. We're finally seeing all the colors that we have.
Yeah.
And I think that is we were brought over here falsely under the pretense of a monolith. We all got to think the same. We were never the same then either. We were forced into a situation where we didn't know the language and we didn't know the ways of the land. So we had to think the same way in order to survive. Now we're out of that in terms of just its embryonic stages, and we're seeing, oh, you don't think like me. Oh, well, everything that I say, you may be totally on the opposite side of it, and I may not agree. It doesn't make you wrong. It makes you different. And now we're different. We're vilifying different because we've never seen that with us before. That's the next step in this advancement. We've got to understand and embrace that we are not all the same, and it's okay.
But we also have to get to a point where, in order to support the next person, that what we're putting out there is quality. You know what I mean? Because let me just say this. I had said, oh, I was all in my feelings, and y'all can all hang me too for this. I was all in my, I ain't supporting nobody. I'm supporting all black people. So I went to go get my nails done. Okay. I'm like, I don't want that. Well, why you don't want that? Because I don't want that. Well, I think that because you're not keeping up with the trend.
Girl, if you don't put the color out.
If you don't do, and so I said, okay.
You don't retch back there.
I go over to my normal nail shop. I get my nails done, my feet done, my eyebrows, and my lashes done, and I'm in and out.
The way that I asked them to do it.
When I went to the all black establishment, okay, I was waiting for 2 hours for starters. Yeah. Then it took another 3 hours, and I'm not even exaggerating. And then when I go to the Chinese people to get my nails done, they last 3 weeks, at least almost 4 if I'm real good with it. These nails lasted a week.
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to do? Like, how am I supposed to, support you when, number one, you don't want to give me what I want. I don't care if I wanted a white manicure from the 1960s. That's what I asked for.
That's actually not what you want. Okay, what you want is this claw-shaped thing. I'm gonna put some crystals on there.
Yeah, that's wrong.
That's not what.
You want corn chip nail tips?
I don't want my nails long and curling over.
You want corn chip nail tips? That's what everybody doing.
You know what I'm saying? But because everybody else is getting ombre crystal glass nails, I don't even know what that is. You know what I mean? Like, I just want you to do my nails. And I want you to
Let me say this to that.
Like, that's what I want to do.
Let me say this to that. This is what's funny, because I've raised this too. I've gotten attacked for it. But I'll say it this way, because we're in Atlanta. Qamil Road. This is a prime example. Okay. So based on Lisa's face, you already know what you're doing on Qamil Road. But what I'll say is this: what's funny about all the restaurants that are on Qamil Road, or actually Qamil and Weston Chapel, they're all in predominantly the black neighborhood where, and I'm just being real, you go in there, the lines are long, people are upset that they're at work, your order's going to be wrong. I'm sorry, that's just it's always what happens. However, in the same neighborhood, and don't hang me for saying this either, when you go to Chick-fil-A, it's the same neighborhood. It's the same demographic of people that will work there. Your whole experience is different. Right. So it can't be just that's just how no. How are you running your business?
It is the expectation of
the expectation of your establishment. And if you're
from hiring to training all the way through.
Where is it? Like literally at this Chick-fil-A, they were so organized, like it was almost like they were escorting you to the restaurant when you got off the freeway. Like that's how many people they had guiding you where to go.
That's why people will wait in line at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, it's a culture.
Chick-fil-A has a culture. But I think that's what we're doing now. And I understand Lisa's, passion on it. But what I will say is I personally am encouraged to a certain extent, like what Qamil was talking about. I think you got to remember, it's 400 years. I mean, literally less than 100 years ago, they had black people. They had black folks in zoos, literally less than 100 years ago. So I am encouraged by, what I see. I think that this is like the genesis
Wait a minute,
of
Mark. Hold on. Tell him we
Well,
said
maybe
hey.
that's what I'm saying.
Can I kick him out real quick?
Yeah.
Hey, little boy.
And then
I mean, but this is real life, real talk, though. You know what I'm saying? This is what we as mothers do. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We have to,
sure.
move and shake a little bit. We've been on
Because COVID, you be at home, not at the office,
Right.
His dad's gathering.
I think it was funny though.
Love you, little black boy.
I went to a restaurant the other day and just
Please.
you going, yeah, all right.
He needs some mamas.
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
Oh no, but I'm just saying that just even having a panel like this, I do feel like this is the it feels like it's. I was talking to my sister about it. It does feel like a great awakening in a sense is happening. And what I will say is, in a sense where I know a lot of us feel like maybe we haven't, the movement or whatever we're trying to achieve hasn't been as organized. To me personally, I've seen more mobilization than I've seen in quite some time. Like I don't want to paint a completely grim picture because like even in my city here in Lakeland, I've seen like, the youth have been really instrumental. And I think because of social media and things, even I've seen young white kids push back on their parents, like, no, you need to educate yourself on what Black people have brought to the table. Because I think that's a big problem. Like I said, if you're always painting us as, like I said, you're always using that thing of Black on Black crime and different things. You think that we're leeching off of society, and you hear, oh my taxes are paying for you guys to be on welfare and all these different things. But at the, like Lisa said, we actually built this country, with our own sweat equity, and then had the whole system designed not to protect us. It was never, guys will just obey the law. It's never been that simple for Black folks. So we know that. But what I will say is seeing how social media, and like Qamil said, and Erik said, we have more resources. I've actually, to be honest, been encouraged. Like not everybody, even Nipsey Hussle said, when we're taking these to the next level, not everybody's gonna go. Harriet Tubman had slaves tell her, like, I'm straight. Like, y'all could go, I'm straight. Like, we good. Like, so my whole thing is not getting every Black person on board with it, but I feel like
Harriet.
Yeah, right.
They say I'm not arguing with nobody Harriet would have shot, okay? We're not arguing with nobody.
We're not doing that.
It's not real.
I think it's gonna ultimately. I think it is gonna take time, but just like our grandparents and our ancestors, even from, like I said, from the '60s, like most of them aren't really gonna get to enjoy the fruits of what we get now. Most of them, a lot of God bless them, a lot of them are transitioning, but they knew that if they sacrificed in the 50s and 60s, they knew that it would make it better for us. I think that what a lot of us had to come to terms with, I like to refer them in a sense as like a hump generation where they pushed us over a certain hump. But now our generation, us who are in our 30s and 40s and things of that nature, I feel like we have to accept the fact that we may not 100% get to see what we want it to be. But I think we have to accept the fact that if we lay the seeds, because what we're asking for now, our ancestors couldn't even think about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like now we're talking about, where we're talking about the mobilization of the Black dollar, making it circulate through our community more than a couple of hours.
To circulate.
Yeah, they didn't have a dollar to circulate. And when they did build their own thing, it got burned to the ground. So I am encouraged. I think that what we have to be a little bit realistic that it is going to take time, but with social media, with people being able to disseminate and spread information and it being able to hit people quicker, I have seen like the young people, and I said even young white people, tell their parents like, hey, you need to educate yourself. And they're not just, monkeys and hoodlums, and like I've seen it. So, and just for ourselves, I feel like there is a positive trend. I think that it's going to take some patience. I think it's going to, like Erik said, it's going to take us understanding that we're going to have to be more vigilant as far as the way we use our media. Because like I said, I think obviously we need to know the truth, but I also think that there has to be more active circulation of the positive things. Like you only show us getting killed and harassed, and it has. And I mean, and scientifically they've shown, and like I said, you want to check the sources, but they've shown that trauma, and we knew this, but trauma scientifically can be they've just recently said that trauma can scientifically be passed down in your DNA from a scientific aspect, not
and
just,
it has.
yes. So I mean, so think about us, you know, I mean, how that's been done. But I think it's important, like for every, and I know these movies are important, but for every 12 years a slave, like we gotta have some balance in the
I've never seen that
We
either.
need 5 black movies for every.
I think they're fascinated by it.
No,
They're
but
fascinated by
and the investors will fund that.
Yeah, that's what they want to. I mean, it's almost like they're fascinated and they like that because it's not our money that's back in these movies. You know what I'm saying? It's not.
How many different stories of us are there to tell that have not been told?
How many other stories can you tell about you beating the snot out of somebody for trying to run away? Like there's nothing else. When Alex Haley did it, that should have been it. We didn't need nothing else.
That should have been it.
No more.
We don't need 12 years a slave.
No
we
more.
don't need.
There's 900 episodes of
You know
Roots.
what I'm saying? Roots is like it was 15,000 episodes. Critical,
He took care of it.
intense, like stuff. You know what I'm saying? It was like I don't wanna be that. You know what I'm saying? Like so then you go further and you put us on ships. I didn't need to see us sitting nut to butt and doing all this stuff and face to feces, and I didn't need to see it. You know what I mean? I didn't want the visual in my head of them because I can't, because it makes me look at other people and be in immense anger. And then you hear people say, well, I wasn't the one who owned you, so I don't owe you anything. No,
You also don't have a problem with
here's
it.
the deal, and this is what I want people to understand. Our ancestors built this country for your ancestors, right?
Mm-hmm.
You then took what we built and passed it down to your legacy. So you did inherently inherit a legacy from our ancestors. So you do owe it. You know what I mean? You owe it. There's no way we paid into a tax system that our ancestors never saw the residuals from.
Not a dime.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't think people understand because they're not educated enough to know, even Black people. Reparations doesn't have to be necessarily in the form of, I mean, look, the president found a way to come up with this stimulus package.
You can wipe the loan that way.
I'm saying, really, all Black kids should
Figure
go
it out.
to college for free. All of them should be able to go for free.
Yeah.
All that should be a choice. We should have a piece of land. We should have a fair advantage. Because the bottom line is our starting point and their starting point isn't the same. And you can't say that is from, oh, well, I didn't ask to be born in the south side of Columbus. Okay, but that's where we are. But if you put resources in the south side of Columbus that you put in the north side of Columbus, we start at the same point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And letting that money fall there and not
instead of pulling it somewhere else.
Not even that, but letting the money just fall there and then not also saying, well, we're being fair and doing it for everybody. Everybody need to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Need to get it because it was like all those corporations, they got like $2 million a piece or something like that.
They got a lot of money.
You threw us a couple pennies that for most people ran out probably.
$1,200. Okay.
So you had to choose between whether or not you gonna pay your rent or buy food.
Yeah.
$1,200 whenever these companies got.
I didn't ball out on $1,200.
Ain't nothing. Not saying that I didn't do my best with what I had.
But for people who don't have it, that's what I mean by the penny mentality. It's like, oh, well, he gave us something. It's more than
I'm gonna vote for him.
But you're not looking at the point that he could have given you more. But because he knew you'd settle for it, he gave it, and it was okay.
That's what he said at the press conference, basically.
$100.
What you say, Mark?
I mean, that's essentially what Trump said. And when he was doing his rally, he basically essentially said that Black folks, it can't get any worse for you, so you might as well vote for me.
He's not subtle about any of the things that he said.
He literally said that. He said, "What do you have to lose?
Your neighborhoods are terrible.
That's exactly what I'm talking about." He literally said that.
He said that to us
because we don't watch the news.
Yeah.
And how much is $1,200 to him? Like a hot dollar, 50 cents, maybe. He knew it was nothing.
Understand that because we're not even the ones that. our communities don't even vote like they should. I don't even want to get. That's a whole
That's a
nother.
whole.
That's a whole other show.
That's a whole other one.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a part 2 because we
about voting.
Yeah, that's a whole other one.
But
Whole different can of worms.
There's things that we have to, and because we are going to have to do a part 2, guys.
It is an election year. We should do a part 2.
I want to say this to what Marc said earlier too, just to end what we're all saying actually, which is definitely that we got to create our own. And for those of us that are, I still believe in my soul that one of the great reasons why Obama was elected was because of 24, the series. I'll tell you why. When I watched that series and I forget his real name, but Allstate guy. Mm-hmm. When I saw how he was the black president, and sorry, but when I saw that he was the black president and he was cared for, that he was protected, he was important. Granted, they still push the whole white savior narrative, but the fact that he was important. And I remember as at that time, it was like my early 20s, and I remember at that time looking at that, and that meant something to me. As a black male looking at another black person that was important. He wasn't playing a comedic form of a president. And I'm not trying to take away from comedic actors who have done it, but it was a serious thing. And so I say that to say this, that we have to create our own, and we have to start telling our own stories. If we keep relying on media, if we keep relying on every time that something bad happens in the news, who do they get to tell you what happened?
Of course.
And they're never gonna get one of us.
No.
I was looking for a cold pop.
Candace Owens.
We really ain't gonna go there with her.
That's a whole video.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that.
We're gonna talk about it.
Right
but
now.
Why people repost her like, well, Candace said it, and
I just think that
we gotta change that.
I think, but in creating our own, we have to learn to teach each other how to support us. You understand what I'm saying? Because we have enough. We're not poor. That's why you see, different nationalities opening up beer stores and corner stores in our neighborhood. They know that we have the money.
In our neighborhood.
In our neighborhood.
We're foolish with the money. They're not going to put that in the white neighborhood because white people know, like, I'm not wasting my money on that. I'm getting ready to go. If I'm going to go get some alcohol, it's going to be some liquor. It's not going to be no Colt 45. Right. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna throw this over here in the hood where I know buy cigarettes up like
Still reserve.
I said before
we have to do that, and we have to know a distraction when we see one. I.e. Kanye West. We gotta wake up as a culture. We have to wake up. If you don't, I can't think right now. If we don't wake up, I mean, we're laughing because it's the old.
Listen, y'all. Stop listening to this man.
You cannot. If I've seen anybody, and I love Kanye, let me start there. But if I've seen any emotionally unstable person ever,
what the hell is my president? I don't.
We can't even allow him to be put in a position to even be taken serious at this point. Like, we can't, we gotta stay focused on what's going on as a community and as a culture. Everything is not funny. Because we'll laugh at everything. We'll go watch some comedy before we'll watch something serious.
That is our trauma laughing.
It is our trauma laughing.
It really is.
At some point, we have to check our trauma.
Mm-hmm. We do.
We have a generation coming up behind us that don't have to deal with what we've dealt with.
Oh, and they're not going to. They done told me.
They already said it. So
my 12-year-old is way more worse than I was at 12. They're not having it.
We have to make sure that we support the next generation in their efforts, but also set a better foundation of being that support system. Like, I don't know why we don't support each other like we should. I don't know why we don't deliver products in a professional way like we should, because just because you don't have a lot of money don't mean you should treat me like, you know what I'm saying, like I'm subpar. Like, I should be treated the same way. If I'm coming to your mom and pop restaurant, I expect to be treated the same way as if I'm going to Red Lobster or Ruth Chris or wherever else. What you have isn't professional. It's your customer service. It's how you treat me. I could be sitting in sand eating my food Indian style. Mm-hmm. But if you give me the respect and the courtesy and the customer service, you got a customer for life.
And customers, Black people have to, when they go into Black establishments, go in without this attitude of expecting them to do something wrong.
Yeah.
Like a lot of us are expecting to have something to complain about, and we are not the best customers if we want to keep it all the way real.
I'll give you a good customer experience, but I am expecting you to mess up.
We have some very difficult.
It's
if
bad.
you ever worked in customer service and answered a phone call or at a desk or in retail or anything, or in a restaurant, and we were a customer, or we have that auntie that sends all the food back, and you have to. There's work that needs to be done on both sides.
Wait a minute, and send it back.
Send back to the business.
Send back so many times that she basically eat a free meal. Yeah. I've seen that happen before. This blogger literally sent back 4 salads.
Oh my God.
She had eaten the equivalent of a salad, sending it back 4 times. It was crazy.
There's work that needs to be done on both ends, as the patron and as the business.
Yeah, I agree.
Therapy. We just need therapy. Because
and going back to what Marc said.
Everybody go to therapy.
Everybody go to therapy.
You can do it online now because we're in a pandemic. Yeah. You don't even have to go to an office. Your insurance will probably pay for it. Yeah. You can. I know people don't. There's still a stigma. But I do believe that the root of most of the things that we are dealing with is a lack of mental health care.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lack of health care, period. And that's the whole process in and of itself.
Yeah. And a lot of our physical stuff is because of the lack of taking care of the mind.
Yeah.
As someone who went through it, telling you, like you would be.
Me too.
Your blood pressure, your stress, your anger, all of those things that will affect you and get you all unhealthy, make you not motivated to go work out or eat right. You don't care. Like, whatever. I'm just going to eat these chips. That's mental. That is up here.
And then it goes back to what Marc was saying too, that we gotta make it a culture. And that I love how you said that.
Normalize it. Yeah.
It has to be to the point to where excellence is it is us. And I still believe in my soul that we were getting there, even in New Day. But I've noticed that right when Obama got in office, it was like somebody turned the clock back. Yeah. I noticed that. And it was all of a sudden the entertainment, everything became bad. So we've got to snatch that back, like Marc said, and create a culture of excellence, create a culture of positivity and progression. And it's going to start small because it really kicked us back. So it's going to be hard to kind of turn the spoon in the opposite direction, but that's what we got to do.
It starts with each individual person, as I said, like way at the beginning, to be community. It's kind of like when people talk about the church and it was like, we're not going to the building. And it's like, no, you are the church as the person. That's what I mean by saying that you are the community. We are everything that you want to see other people do, you got to do. And then show other people that I'm doing it, lead by example. And people are really looking for that. Like I find personally that when I do good things in the community, I get more people who are like, how can I just help? Absolutely. Everybody's not a leader, everybody's not going to just have the capacity to lead. More people will follow than will step up to be a leader. So if you feel like you are someone who can lead in any kind of way, no matter, it's just pick something that you're passionate about, whether it's working with kids, feeding people, like giving clothes away, or like whatever, just pick something and do that. Talk about it, talk about other people that do it, and then other people will, if you build it, they will come.
They will come. You're all right.
I'd have to agree, but I do know I would have this conversation all night, but we're going to wrap it here. Yes. But we will be doing a part 2, much like some of my other segments, just because I think this is just, we haven't even scratched the tip of the iceberg when it comes to kind of breezed over several different issues, but it's definitely a conversation that we need to have and keep having, especially up through the election. Because we want people to stay woke and remain woke so that this change can kind of continue to, catapult throughout the year and into the new year. But I do appreciate you guys for joining me and us having this conversation. You guys, thank you for watching. If you haven't seen our other videos, go check out Alisa On The Mic podcast with friends on all social media. Check out the other videos that are on my YouTube page. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. And until next time, we will see you later.
All right.
Let's rant again, people. Let's rant again.